Howdy, gang, and hopefully I won't have to get up and go take care of Sammy, but he's whining back there. But that's the beauty of doing these pre recorded things because I can always pause it and resume, and you guys and gals don't really notice there's not dead space. And y'all sitting around waiting for me to come back and all of that. So I think I'm going to take an opportunity to let him back here and see if he will quit whining. So I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Turns out Sammy needed to go outside, so it's probably a good thing I let him out. Before I get started, and you guys may or may not care, that Hellfire Club light, I don't know. It looks like it's going to stay on. We'll see if it stays on for several minutes. I'm thinking along the lines of what Steve said, in that the battery must be running low on it or something like that. Because when I turn it on the one where it fades to the different colors, it goes right off. So I'm guessing maybe there's not enough battery power to power it. But you guys don't need to know about that. So anyway, this is the like pre-intro to my recorded video from yesterday at Scarefest. So before you guys get to see that, I'm actually going to break it all down for you, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then I'm going to let you guys and gals see, what I recorded before and after. Just a little word of warning, and I explain that in the aftermath. That's what I should have called the Scarefest, the aftermath. I'm going to explain the title, Scarefest Final Chapter, in a little more detail. Um, but as you guys and gals can probably tell, I do still look very tired. Steve is wiped out. Um, and well, let's just get into it. Okay. Um, and I really, really do hate to do this to a convention that I loved for a lot of years. And I did get media passes, but let me tell you guys and gals this. I mean, the media passes, I guess that really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, except that you basically get into the convention free. I mean, that's the only perk that getting a media pass gets you. Unless you're going to be really aggressive and willing to fight to the crowds and all that stuff to try to get interviews. Basically, the how the day went, I was just not in any state of mind or body to be able to go on Stars Row, find a security person, and say, well, okay, which one of these people or which of these people can I go up to? And they will allow me to interview them and take video and or pictures for free. Okay. I literally couldn't bring myself to even do that. And I feel sad about that because I would love to have been able to show you guys little snippets of interviews or showing y'all pictures or showing y'all video. Um, Unfortunately, that just did not happen. And maybe it's because I'm just not an aggressive enough go getter person. And perhaps I just wasted my media passes. But here's a breakdown on how this went. Okay. Now, we were warned, and I passed this information along to Steve. I did. However, I was told the best thing to do would be to get up there Friday and walk right in there and get our media passes and just go from there. That was our best bet. And I'm not blaming Steve for this. This entirely was not Steve's fault. Steve is of the opinion that I'm going to get there around the time they open because I don't want to get there early because we can't go the night before for various reasons. And one of the big reasons is we have 5 dogs and various other animals. Um, we literally would have to plan to have somebody come and stay with the dogs. We have Sammy, who is a very anxious dog, and you guys and gals might not be at all interested in this, but this is my explanation of why we cannot go up the night before like the main event of anything anymore. And that is, that's due to me wanting too many animals. So if anybody wants to blame anybody for it, that is me. If it had been up to Steve, although he loves all of our dogs, he probably wouldn't have had more than 2, possibly 3 dogs. He would have never adopted a total of 5 dogs. And at one time, we had 6 dogs before we unfortunately had to take one back due to it not being compatible with our other dogs. So, needless to say, even though it was suggested to us that we go up Friday, although we did hear that a guy got there at 4 o'clock and he still had to wait in line. And by the time that he got in there, he had 2 hours at best to do anything. So I don't know. I don't notice this at Horror Hound. I, Horror Hound has been the other big one that I went to the last few years. Horror Hound and Scarefest. And we didn't consistently go to Scarefest. All right. We just went when there was somebody that I wanted to see. So I did not notice this at Scarefest. I'm not sure if Scarefest has better organization. I think the big thing here is that they overbook guests at Scarefest. That is the only thing that I can possibly think contributed to this insanity. And I was told Scarefest last year, which I don't think we went to Scarefest last year. I think it was the year before we went, and I met Michael Berryman, and it wasn't that bad that time. It literally was not that bad, and I'm pretty sure we went on a Saturday. Now I heard that last year was worse than this year. And I'm like, oh Lord, I don't know how, but I wasn't there, so I can't imagine. But I think the big thing that contributes to the insanity of Scarefest nowadays is overbooking guests. They simply get too many guests. And that means too much time where the guests are away from their table doing panels and photo ops, which I'll explain that a little bit here in just a sec. Okay? Because, and this is not the guest's fault, they simply should not overbook and have that many guests. They had a ton of reunions. That was another thing I saw that was just, it was so wrong. They shouldn't have done that. One, maybe 2 reunions. Okay. Horror Hound had a Nightmare on Elm Street 40th anniversary reunion. And they may have had like a Scream reunion. But I don't remember there being like a gazillion reunions. Okay. So fast forward to Scarefest. Scarefest had a Scream reunion. They had a Fright Night reunion. They had a Phantasm reunion. And a Pet Cemetery reunion. Plus, they had all the, like, getting all the Jasons together, getting all the Michael Myers together, and doing photo ops. It's just too much. Just literally too much. I know that people always are concerned that, somebody might stop doing conventions or somebody might unfortunately pass away. Um, but one thing I could suggest to these convention promoters is limit yourself. Limit yourself, number one, on how many guests you got. Second of all, limit yourself on how many freaking reunions you do. Because this, in my opinion, even though I was told the one last year was worse, I can't say because I didn't go the one last year. However, I can say that the one before that was tame compared to this insanity and mess that this was. And I know I'm not the only one complaining. I don't know if other people will make videos about it. But first of all, we got there at a little bit before 11. They opened the doors, general admission at 11. Okay. First of all, there was absolutely no designation of where, once you got in the building, nothing outside the building that would indicate that people with media passes would go anywhere other than general admission. Okay. So me and Steve got there a little bit before 11. We walked from the parking lot. Here's another thing, $27 to park in the parking area across from the Central Bank Center where the convention was held. $27. The last time I went a couple of years ago, it was 20. We thought that was bad enough. Now it's 27. Okay. Note to self, never pay $27 for parking. Because we saw later there was event parking, it was like $10. Might have to walk a little bit, but $10 and $27 is a big deal to me. And I think it was a big deal to Steve too. Okay, so $27 to even park in the parking lot. You used to be able to park there free. That was before they did all these renovations. These renovations suck, folks. They suck. Actually, I think Scarefest should find a different place to have their convention because the Central Bank Center sucks. The layout sucks. The renovations suck. It did nothing to improve this. I mean, maybe for a basketball game or something like that, maybe it's okay. A convention, it sucked horribly. Okay. So, in years past, when we went, you know, the food court and everything was like a mall food court. It was great. You weren't waiting in line forever to get food, but I'll get to that. Okay. My brain is just like, it's just insane. So, so we got there. No signage or anything that indicated media pass people were supposed to go anywhere different than general admission. Okay. Keep in mind, I didn't have a QR code. All I had was an email and an Eventbrite thing that didn't have a QR code that said Media Pass registration or whatever. Okay? Nothing they could scan. My email said that I was supposed to go to where the Media Passes were once you got into the convention area. Okay? So we got there, we walked from the parking lot. We saw line stretched all the way around, and I had bad omens of all kinds when we saw that. Okay. So we got to one of the security people or whatever, those people that direct you where you need to go. And this guy was telling us and a group of people, if you have general admission or something like that, you need to go all the way around the island and line up. And there was people already woven around and wrapped around the front of the building and everything. Okay, so that was a bad omen to begin with. And then that area filled up, and then they had to put people, they had to send them down steps, and they were in some, it looked like a freaking mosh pit down there. We didn't have to be there. Okay, so keep in mind, we got to that area around 11 o'clock. We did not get in the building until 12:30 or 12:27, close enough to 12:30. So we were in that hellacious line for an hour and a half. Okay. So then we had to wind around and get up to where they normally scan your QR codes. And the girl was going to scan my QR code. I said, I've got media passes. I don't have a QR code. And so I said, I've got an email. And she said, well, can I see your email? So I handed it to her, and that meant absolutely nothing to her. I'm not saying anything bad about her. I'm just saying, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. No organization whatsoever. So she said, well, go down this way. And I went to the VIP section, and the girl asked this other woman for the list for the media passes. And the lady just like very flippantly said, well, they normally come to me. And I wanted to say, well, if you had a sign that didn't just say VIP, if it said media passes, I would have went right to you. Your own people didn't even know where I was supposed to go. And I just didn't like that comment, but I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything, didn't want to, ruffle any feathers or anything. So she got the list. I gave her my name, and they got us two lanyards, one for me, one for Steve. Okay. So that was the first hurdle. And then we actually got into where the guests were at. And we were already tired by that time, me and Steve both. Bodies were aching, headaches started, all that stuff before we even got in there. Steve was irritated. I was a little irritated, you know. So we got in there, and just like wall to wall people. And I know it was a Saturday, but even a couple of years ago, it wasn't this bad. Again, overbooked, too many guests, too many reunions, just way too much. Plus, too many high profile people like Matthew Lillard, who people just absolutely go ape over. Okay. And those lines for people like him make it where you can't even tell where the other lines for other people are. Okay. So I wanted to meet Kat Lester from Phantasm, played the lady in lavender. And I was planning on getting several more. Of course, it didn't turn out that way. So I got up to Cat Lester. There was one guy in front of me, and as soon as I freaking got up there, and again, this isn't the guest's fault. This is totally a disorganization thing, or an organization thing. I saw that I can't remember if it was Gloria Lynn Henry or whatever, the one that played Rocky. She came over and just, and I'm sure Cat Lester didn't see me standing there. I mean, it was bedlam in there anyway. And I heard her say, we got a panel. We got a panel. We got to go. So they just all up and laughed, all the Phantasm people. And I was like, I looked at Steve. I was like, well, guess I won't be getting her autograph now. He said, well, I don't know why Sammy's barking out there. Um, Let me pause this for 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Um, so my neighbors are doing some more Halloween decorating, and Sammy was just barking his head off at them. So, anyways, back to the matter at hand. So, Steve said, well, and I think me and him both agreed we'd just come back in a little bit and see if they were back. Um, in the meantime, we met up with Candace and Chris, and they were about ready to go to that panel. And Steve and I were tired. We were getting headaches and stuff, even by that early time. Because keep in mind, we had stood in line for an hour and a half just to get into the building, and we were getting hungry because it was going on, 1 o'clock by that time. By the time we made our way over to where Cat Lester was, found out she was going to a panel. So, we were planning on going out to eat with Candace and Chris anyway. So we didn't want to eat a lot. All we wanted to do was get a snack. So at first we were going to go in the panel with them, and then me and Steve thought, well, maybe we better go try to get something to eat. So it was an act of Congress to find where the freaking food court was. See, this is another thing. They used to have, like I said, it was a mall food court. No problem. Okay. We got in the newly renovated food court, and there were freaking lines everywhere. There were no short lines. And Steve was like, this is insane. We're going to have to wait, you know, 45 minutes, possibly an hour at any of these things. He said, this is awful. So he said, he was getting aggravated by this time, and I was hungry and I had a headache. And me being diabetic, it was, I learned my lesson. I'm going to have, some little bags of chips. I'm going to have some candy. I'm going to have all this stuff with us before we go to any sort of convention again. Okay. Because I definitely learned my lesson. And when we went up to Cat Lester's table the first time around, I didn't know my cousin Jed and his wife were going to be at the convention. All of a sudden, I heard Dana. That was a perk. I got to see my cousin Jed and his wife, and I think they were having a really good time. Of course, they're quite a bit younger than me and Steve, though, so they probably got a few years before they start, slowing down on that. But so Steve was like, this is crazy. He says, I'm just going to go to a restaurant near here and get something to eat. And so we went outside. Steve brought up on his phone, and there was something called Ruby's Cafe. Well, it turned out Ruby's Cafe was freaking inside the Central Bank Center. So that wasn't going to work. Then Steve said, well, there's McDonald's. But here's the way things are laid out. I think they don't want people to be able to find a restaurant within close proximity to the Central Bank Center because they want you to eat in there, the overpriced food. Okay? So we tried to find a McDonald's, and we couldn't make heads or tails of it. And we just so we went back down. There were some food trucks outside of the Central Bank Center. Again, long, long lines. So after a while, me and Steve we gave up. And Steve was agitated. I was agitated. We weren't feeling good. We were hungry. We had headaches. At one time, I felt like I was going to pass out. I can't really blame that on Scarefest because me being diabetic, I should have had something on me, and something told me I should have took some stuff with me. There was some kind of self-service thing, like vending machine type deal where they had drinks and some kind of little snack foods and stuff like that. But by that time, me and Steve were just completely put out. We just didn't know what to do anymore. So, we ended up. We talked to Candace and Chris because the panel was over. We talked to them again, and I said, "Well, I'm going to try to get a couple of Pet Cemetery people. I was going to get Dale Midkiff and that Andrew Hubstack who played Zelda, and I was going to go meet Cat Lester, and that was going to be the extent of it. I had envisioned, doing a lot more, at least until the money held out, whichever came first. The money dried up, or I got to meet as many people as I could. So anyway, excuse me. Um, so we went over to Cat Lester. She was very, very sweet and personable. It did cost $60 to get her autograph. She was the last person I need to autograph my Phantasm sphere, and she did that in like a lavender Sharpie, and it looked really, really cool. She basically signed the bottom of it. She said, "Where you want me to sign?" Because I had Don Coscarelli, Angus Scrimm, Reggie Bannister, Michael Baldwin, Bill Thornberry. And I said, "Wherever you can find it." And she signed it real big for me on the bottom of the sphere. So now I have pretty much all the main people from Phantasm that have signed this from the original Phantasm. And then I got a picture with her, and like I said, just as sweet as can be. And I would highly recommend you meeting any of the Phantasm people, but I expected her that she would have been nice, because I hadn't heard anybody ever complain about meeting her, but she was just super, super nice. And we talked about Angus Scrimm and all that. And her handler, sometimes the people that are with them, it's kind of a toss up whether they'll be nice or not. But the lady that was with her was very, very nice as well. I even talked to her for a little bit, the one, taking the money and all that stuff. So anyway, that was great. And then we decided to go over and find the almost said Phantasm people, the Pet Cemetery people. I was really excited. I really wanted to meet Dale Midkiff. I'd heard he's so sweet and nice and stuff. Um, well, we got over there, and neither Dale Midkiff or Andrew Hubstead were at their table. In fact, that was another thing. And again, I'm not blaming this on the guest. I mean, they got to eat at some time. They got to go to the bathroom sometimes. They're human beings. But I suspect it was probably, they had them doing so many panels, or had them doing so many photo ops. And eventually they've got to eat, and they've got to go to the bathroom, you know. And so, for whatever reason, they weren't at their table. And Steve was getting steadily more and more frustrated. And so, even though I only got to meet one person, I thought, it's not like I paid big money to get in here. And hopefully I will have other opportunities to meet Dale Midkiff, Andrew Hubstack, any of these other people that I wanted to meet that I didn't get a chance to. Hopefully I will get that chance in the future. And if I don't, that's life, unfortunately. So the reason why I'm calling this video Scarefest the Final Chapter is Steve and I more than likely will not be going back to another Scarefest. Unless something radically changes, because it was just so chaotic and disorganized. And, you know, it, maybe it didn't bother other people, but there are some things that I heard in line that while we were waiting that hour and a half to get inside the building, one guy, I heard him say, he said, "This is my first Scarefest convention. This is going to be my last one." So there's more than likely one person, and I'm sure there were other people thinking the same thing. Another guy I heard saying, he said that these types of conventions should be for the hardcore horror fan. And I took that to mean like what I've always said. And I'm not trying to restrain people or restrict people from coming. But let me tell you something. People have been saying this for years. The whole Walking Dead thing screwed everybody. except for these youngins that they can stand in line, I guess, for 5 hours and wait to meet somebody that they got these little teeny bopper girls got crushes on or something, you know. But what The Walking Dead did was, because it was so super popular, was that it turned on housewives and teeny boppers to something that, I've said this before, I'll say it again, something, the subject matter of zombies that was on the fringes for many, many years. You didn't see housewives and teeny boppers going goo goo for George Romero and his zombies. And it was that way for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, Walking Dead explodes and becomes this ultra popular thing. And housewives and teeny boppers start flocking to these conventions. Okay? So, I don't really want to blame The Walking Dead, because The Walking Dead was cool when it first came out. But then as it went on, I tuned out. After they killed the character of Herschel off, I tuned out of it. It was great at first, it just fell off the mark the longer it went on. And the appeal of it seemed to shift from people that were on the fringes, like those hardcore horror fans, to zombies being part of everyday life. And it was like they turned up in commercials and everything. It's just like, I, I don't get this. And I don't like it personally. Um, and some people are probably saying, well, Dana, don't be such an elitist, you know. But I think that is what, number one, made everybody and their mother want to charge these high prices. Made people think, well, if so and so from Walking Dead is charging X amount of dollars for their autograph, and an additional X amount of dollars to get a photo at their table with somebody's own phone, you know, well, I can do that too. And understandably so. There's only so many times you can hear that kind of stuff where you say, well, why not me too? You know, so that caused a lot of messes. It also caused too many people to come to these shows, as is evident by this last Scarefest show. And, I just think that the promoters need to think a little bit before next year's show. Not that I'm going to be there, but they need to think about it, because people are talking, and one person might tell five people, and five people might tell 10 more people. And it's just what happens when you allow, and I don't think it's greediness. I don't know. What would you call it? Maybe some of it is greediness, because they're thinking of all this money they're getting for people, buying tickets. But there were people waiting in line that they had to pull out of line because they had 12:30 photo ops, 1 p.m. photo ops. I didn't see that happen in a Horror Hound. That was another thing I didn't see happen in a Horror Hound. And yeah, Horror Hound bottlenecked with people at some points, but it was not a mess at Horror Hound, in my opinion. I don't know how the photo ops were at Scarefest, because I didn't get any. Um, but I think I probably blabbed long. I went on for 35 minutes. That's longer than both of my before and after videos. But I just kind of wanted to give everybody a feel for what happened to me and Steve at yesterday's Scarefest. And hopefully I'll be able to put this video up really soon. I hope that you guys and gals, at least, that it wasn't just a complaint fest or a bitch fest for me. I'm hoping that you were able to, get some good information, some helpful information. I'm not telling anybody not to go to Scarefest. I wanted to be able to just talk about all positive things. I really, really did. I went into this wanting to. It's just the circumstances that we were put into were not very favorable, and I have to be truthful and honest um, about how things were laid out, because I feel like it's my job as a content creator on YouTube. If I'm going to talk about a convention, I need to talk about it in honest terms and not try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm not being paid to do these things. So there's no incentive, and I wouldn't anyway. But I'm just saying there's no incentive for me to tell things that are untrue. So this is going to be the end of this intro. I hope you guys enjoy this video in any event. I've got to make some Zatarain's dirty rice for me and Steve, or maybe just Steve. But I hope you enjoy the forthcoming video. And y'all take care and enjoy. Okay, I forgot again. Steve just now reminded me, and we're just a little bit from Lexington, I think. But we're on our way to Scarefest, and I promised that I would try to record before and after, and possibly during. I don't know how crowded it's going to be. It's a Saturday. It's probably going to be crowded, right, Steve?
Yeah.
So I would ask Steve who he's excited to meet, but it would probably be nobody. So no use asking him about that. Maybe I'll ask him about vendors, but I'm not putting down Scarefest or anything, but I don't know. I wasn't impressed by the vendors that I saw, and I don't think Steve's going to be impressed either, because
I'm going to get some crystals.
You're going to buy some crystals?
And a palm reading.
But I'm thinking about meeting Kathy Lester, who played the lady in Lavender.
Globe, I see.
Yeah. Yeah. She's...
Globe.
It's not snow globe. She is the only one of, like, I guess, the primary cast that I haven't had sign my sphere over the years. Somebody's want to play race car driver over here. But I may get her signature. I brought my Spirit Halloween collectible. It looks like a VHS case for Halloween 2, and it's got that classic artwork on it. Depending on how much Dick Warlock's autograph is,
I'm guessing $60.
Steve's saying 60, but
I'm guessing.
We'll see.
No man, he's gonna try to clean up.
Well, a lot of these guys are, I guess, not reaching the end of their life. I don't want to say that, but they're probably reaching the end of their convention circuit. They're going to eventually not feel like going to these damn things anymore. I'm looking for Robert England in the next few years to quit doing these. And that's why I made sure that I, at least got a picture and got to meet him briefly at Horror Hound. So, there's going to be a ton of people here. They're having a Scream reunion. They're having a Fright Night reunion. They're having a Phantasm reunion. I don't know how many gang reunions they're having at this thing. Oops. Around so y'all could, well, I can't get Steve in there. I don't know why I can't get him.
You got him on the other side. There you go.
Okay. Sorry. Forgot what I was doing. Steve, do you have any comments?
No comment.
No comment? You're not excited about one damn thing? About Scarefest?
Not really. I mean, it's just going to be $20 for parking.
Well, your wife will pay that.
No, I'll pay it. But, I just don't. I'm not into it. This one usually doesn't have a whole lot of the vendors I would like the movies. They'll have a bootlegger there, and they may have. Maybe, I don't know if Orbit DVD is going to be here or not.
I didn't see them.
Right, so it might be.
But we might get surprised.
There's somebody with Scarefest on their car.
Well, we know where they're going.
Maybe.
Steve probably thinks that's tacky.
I mean,
I'm not trying to piss anybody off. That person
I just don't like putting
video.
shit on my car. I got my, what do you call it? The Psychomania skull on the back of my car.
Yeah,
that's all I got. I don't have 50 million things.
Steve doesn't like when people have 15,000
I don't like
bumper
it.
stickers.
It wouldn't be for me. I'm not doing that.
Well, Steve told me it was tacky.
Well, to me, but that's just for me. If somebody else wants to do it, that's on them. That's their car. They can do what they want.
Yeah. Well, is that all from you, Steve?
It is all from me.
Okay. So Steve's went back to his no comment stance. Like I said, he wouldn't even be going to this thing if it wasn't for me getting media passes and saying, hey, by the way, I got media passes, so we can get in free. He probably would have said, we're not going. We're not paying all that money. But I think Steve did take some money out of his bank account.
Yeah, you never know. Might see something cool, but I doubt it. But you never know.
Steve looks real thrilled there, by the way. Can't even see his eyes because he's got his sunglasses on. So anyway, we will shortly be at Scarefest, and so I've got to make sure we get our media passes. Pray for us, folks, that we don't have to wait in line forever and a day. I tried to tell Steve we need to get here real early, and he said, nope, if you get here real early, that's when you're going to have to stand in a line wrapped around the building. But
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens here. I think he's hoping they'll all be cleared out, or most of the way cleared out by the time we get there. So, but the thing doesn't start till 11, Steve.
Huh?
I don't think the thing starts till 11.
Well, they open the doors, don't they?
Why have we always been standing outside the dang building then?
Because we got here, I thought it starts at 10.
Maybe it is at 10. I don't know.
I hope so. Cause usually we got here before 10, and when we had to sit around and wait until they opened the doors.
Okay. Well, they're not going to, I don't know why they can't just go ahead and let you in there.
Because they don't want to.
Okay. Well, whatever. We'll be there shortly, and I'll try to get some footage inside the convention, and we'll see everybody later. Right, Steve?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, folks. It's been a heck of a day, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Needless to say, I got one autograph and one picture, and that was with Cat Lester. You know, I don't want to say anything bad about Scarefest because they did allow me to have a media pass, and I did actually get a lanyard for this one. I don't know, Steve's probably thinking, who cares? But meeting Cat Lester was great. She was really, really nice, don't you think, Steve?
Yeah.
It did cost me $60 to get both an autograph and a picture with her, but anymore, that's about standard, and you're lucky if you get on that sheet. I had meant to try to meet Dale Midkiff and that Andrew, I think it's Andrew Hubstack, who played Zelda in Pet Sematary, but I'm telling you, since the Central, what is it called, the Central Bank Convention Center now, or something. But anyway, since they've renovated that thing, it's almost impossible to get something to eat in there. Me and Steve walked around. We tried every which way. We even tried the food trucks outside, and there were lines everywhere. And you'd probably have to wait a good 20 to 30 minutes or more to even get up there to get food. that's a big problem that I see. Years ago when we went to Scarefest, there was like a mall food court, and you did not have to wait in long lines to get food. So I think they have maybe done a disservice to anybody that has a convention there by making those renovations, because it didn't make it better, in my opinion, and I think in many other people's opinions. Also, parking's jumped up to $27, folks, and if you leave and come back, guess what? You got to pay another $27. So that's not helping things either. So needless to say, by the time me and Steve got done, or I got done in the convention, we were about to starve to death. And I'm diabetic. That's not real good for me. And it wasn't good for Steve either. And in fact, it's not good for anybody to have to go that long without eating. But we did meet up with Candace and Chris, and we did eat at Petey Mongolian's, the Mongolian Grill. And I had to get me some fried Oreos too, because I needed a little sugar. And I got me an alcoholic drink called a painkiller, which was very good. But I'm sorry to have to report this, but this is going to be me and Steve's last Scarefest convention, because we just couldn't handle it. It even got to me, and I'm usually not the one that, you know, is suffering from exhaustion, is in pain and all that, and I'm just completely wiped out. Steve's back was hurting, his legs were hurting, his feet were hurting, and I don't know what the promoters could do to make this better, but it definitely needs more organization, because I had media passes, and we waited in line for an hour and a half before we even got into the building. And then we got up there and they wanted to scan a QR code, and I said, well, I don't have a QR code, I've got media passes. And so he hauled around and finally got us to somebody that had the list for the media passes. And we did get, we got our lanyards and stuff. But folks, the truth of the matter is, the organization is not good anymore. I never thought I would say this, but there are simply too many guests at these things now. And they get the most popular guests, and I know that's probably the point. But when you've got people like Matthew Lillard, where you got all these teeny boppers coming to meet Matthew Lillard, and I heard this one guy say, but you ain't gonna be able to do that, and because people will get pissed off. He was saying that these things should be for hardcore horror fans only, and there's just no way to do that. And honestly, I blame this on the Walking Dead stuff, because the Walking Dead stuff is what caused all this major influx of housewives and teeny boppers coming to this stuff who would have never come to it otherwise. Would you agree with me, Steve, on that?
Sure.
Steve's like, I'm tired, I don't care. But we did have a good time hanging out with Candace and Chris for a short time. I did enjoy meeting Kat Lester. She was really sweet and nice. She was the last person I needed to sign my Phantasm Sphere. And I got a picture with her as well, which I'm going to have to get from Steve, so I can put it on Facebook. Sadly, this place was too packed for me to even think about filming inside the convention. Just absolutely wall-to-wall people. It was claustrophobic. There were so many people. But I've talked about 7 minutes, and Steve's probably tired of hearing me. Steve, is there anything that you want to say in closing?
No.
Alright, so, yeah, don't envision us going to Scarefest again. Just too much of a headache. But I guess this is me and Steve signing off. And I'll try to have this video up as soon as I can. And y'all have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. I think I'm going to go home and pass out for a while is what I think I'm going to do, because I'm just wore out. But I will see everybody next time.